Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Season 4. This podcast is your guide to navigating career success in a world that's changing faster than ever. I'm your host, Batje and Chinwe, certified professional career coach and founder of HUMHR. This season, we are exploring entrepreneurship as a career choice. Welcome, Chinwe. Thank you for joining me today on HUMHR Career Insights. Listeners, today on HUMHR Career Insights, we are joined by Chinwe Onyeagoro, who is the co-founder and CEO of PocketSuite, an all-in-one SaaS business operating system designed to help service businesses and franchises manage their operations. PocketSuite has delivered $1 billion in income, scheduled more than 10 million appointments, and facilitated transactions with over 500,000 customers for businesses in beauty, health and wellness, pet services, and home services. Chinwe has dedicated her career to empowering small business owners and freelancers to thrive in today's economy. Driven by this passion to help solo operators and small businesses succeed, she also co-founded Fundwell, which is a platform to match small businesses with financing. She has also served as the president and chief strategy officer of Great Places to Work. And she's also an author. She is the co-creator of the Neo and Nubia children's book series. She was also a Henry Crown Fellow at the Aspen Institute and is known as the small business economist. Chinwe, welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you with us. And wow, is there anything I left out? Give us a short intro.
You covered it. What I will say is, when I think about what I do today, every day, at a certain point as an entrepreneur, as a leader growing a business, a lot of what you're doing is finding great talent and you're developing great talent. So a big part of my job and my avocation, if you will, is to
Yeah.
find great people who believe in the vision and to help them do their best work. Hopefully live their best life while they're doing that great work. So that's
Yeah.
what I'll say. And I'm also a mother of two and a wife. So all in a day's work.
I love that. People development. That's always the greatest thing a leader can do. Help people be the best that they can, and they also pass it on and impact the world to make the world a better place.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
There's
Chinwe,
an
I looked
ancient
at your
proverb that says, if you want to do it, if you want to go fast, do it alone. If you want to go far, do it together.
That is it. Definitely teamwork. Chinwe, I looked at your profile and I said, wow, that corporate, your career in corporate was amazing. Why did you then take the leap? Why did you leave corporate to found something?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, just knowing kind of my early life and early childhood, it wasn't about whether I would do it. It was just when, right? So as growing up, I just was very obsessed with creating businesses. And I would have babysitters clubs with friends in the neighborhood. We would babysit the kids in the neighborhood and earn money. And we would have certainly lemonade stands. But, everybody has a role in these businesses.
Yeah.
And my role tended to be helping to structure, right? This is the stand. Here's how much we're going to, budget. Here
Yes.
what we're
Yes.
pricing. And once we got one lemonade stand going, I would think about the three other locations. We could create additional lemonade stands and replicate the model. So I was really obsessed with, how far can we take our talents and our ideas? And so that was something
Wow.
that stuck with me. So going to corporate was really just about building my toolkit, sharpening my saw, identifying the talents that I wanted to bring to bear in a future business, and then eventually step out to create a business.
So it was strategic.
It was strategic and inevitable. Yes.
I like that you started at a young age with
Indeed,
lemonade stands.
indeed.
Uh, and it seems a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to actually did start at a young age. Do you think that's something that should be taught in elementary school or in like kindergarten?
It's interesting. I'm a big proponent of financial literacy, of entrepreneurial
Mm,
literacy, but not from the standpoint of everybody has to pursue entrepreneurship, but just from the standpoint of everyone should have exposure to entrepreneurship
yes.
and financial literacy and also have empathy for the different roles that folks play in a business. The
Mm,
idea creator and visionary is just as important as the general manager, who's just as
mhm,
important as the frontline staff. And if you have empathy for those different roles in what makes a business great and successful, then you play that role and do your best work in that role and really fuel shared success. And so one of the schools that I really appreciate, my niece is graduating from Cornell School of Hospitality this
uh-huh,
year. And, one thing she shared with me is, as part of, sort of meeting your credits to graduate, you have to host an event in the restaurant at the Cornell School of Hospitality, and everybody has a role. Sometimes you're the business manager, sometimes you're the sous chef, sometimes you're the
yeah.
waiter, so that you have the opportunity to understand what
Mm,
everyone is solving for in that
mhm,
restaurant, and you can again do your best work and enable and support others to do their best work. So that kind of shared education, cooperative education model, I am a big supporter and proponent of.
mm, mm. You spoke about leadership
Yes.
earlier. What would you say has been the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned and you can share with someone who is wanting to start, who found something big, start an enterprise? How should they lead, right? What is the biggest leadership lesson in being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two things that really help fuel you in the early years
Mm-hmm.
and sustain you in the later years if you're, fortunate enough to continue to scale
Yeah.
and grow your business. I think what fuels you in the early years is a strong conviction about
Mm,
something that doesn't exist in the market that there's latent demand for, right? So
yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is, right? You're going in because you really feel like you are uniquely qualified to be able to bring that service, that product,
Mm-hmm.
that process to bear. And so that's the conviction. I worry about kind of jumping in when you don't yet have that conviction. It's perfectly fine for someone else that you meet to have the conviction and to convince you that actually this makes sense, and for you to know the role you're going to play because again, you're
Mm-hmm.
uniquely qualified to help found something like that. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 is that you really care and love the process because you're light years away from seeing results and outcomes, right? And so it's really if you're setting your hopes on a certain revenue number or raising a
Yeah.
certain amount of capital or any of the milestones that are absolutely progress markers on the journey, it becomes deflating. But if you really like the incremental process of we've now mapped out the workflow, we've now, structured, that first design, the
Mm,
process of bringing your ideas to life, then you always have momentum to keep going. And
yes.
of course, as you get bigger and the progress markers get bigger and your team grows, you again have to find people who love that process as well and want to be difference makers in actually making those things
Mm,
happen. And so that also then sustains you. So those are the two things I would say, have conviction and market insight, and also make sure you really love the process of building, of creating, and of scaling, because that's ultimately what entrepreneurship is about. The progress markers are just a way to keep score. It's not fundamentally, what it means to be an entrepreneur.
mm, mm. Yeah, that passion to keep going, like you were talking about the lemonade stand, scaling up, the fun. Okay, you're building it, and then you want to see it grow. So
Yes.
Yeah, same thing with PocketSuite. Please tell us about PocketSuite. I went on the website when you sent and I was like, wow, wow, this is exactly what I need, you know?
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, PocketSuite is a SaaS business operating system. So think
Mhm,
Oracle, think NetSuite, but
mhm,
specifically for service businesses and
mhm,
for franchises, service-based franchises. So everyone from your dog training, right? So
mhm,
anybody you might
mhm,
hire for dog training or pet sitting,
mhm,
to anyone you
mhm,
might hire to do your hair or to help
mhm.
you with doing facials and skincare, to anyone you might hire for fitness and for,
Yeah,
exercise, nutrition.
yeah,
All of those service professionals and service businesses, they're running businesses and their currency is their time and their talent, right? You're
yeah,
ultimately booking their time and talent. So we help them with scheduling, automating that scheduling experience, making it seamless, making it automated for their clients and for their teams. We also help them with managing the intake, right? When you are training your dog, there's a lot of pet information, vaccination records, things that dog trainer needs to know about that pet's history to do a great job by you and by your pet family. And so they've got to collect that information at the outset and use it throughout the process to customize that training. Same thing for your health and wellness and your fitness instructor. They need to have that health history, what your goals are, and then to be able to lean into that. And then, of course, the payment process. Oftentimes with these providers, you're using them multiple times. So automating
yeah.
that payment, making sure you have transparency around what you're paying for, and making sure that pro has perfect information about, what's owed, what's been paid, and what's coming. And so that
Mhm,
full spectrum of document management, communication management, scheduling, payments,
mhm.
reporting, all of that is in as part of the all-in-one system that PocketSuite manages. And so it's a really exciting proposition to think of, like, again, an oracle for service-based
Yeah.
professionals that's mobile in your pocket and also on desktop for your team.
Yeah, how did you come up with this idea? I mean, you know,
Yeah, in some ways it's less of an entrepreneurial story and more of a romance story. So I met my husband
uh-huh,
on Match.com, and
yes,
at the time I was based in Chicago and he was
uh-huh,
based in San Francisco. And
uh-huh.
so, over time, as we dated, I actually started kind of running and managing 2 households, one in Chicago and one in San Francisco. And to do that well, as at the time I was an entrepreneur running my startup, OH Community Partners, which is a small business consulting firm, and also Funwell, which was a financing firm for small businesses. So running
Yes,
2 households, running 2 businesses in 2 different cities. So to do
uh-huh,
that, you need not only a team that helps you run those businesses, but you also need a personal team. And I had
yes,
an unbelievable group of service providers that would help me. I had home cleaners, much to my
uh-huh.
mother's chagrin. I'm from Nigeria originally. She believes we clean our own home, so that's a separate matter. I had a coach, right? Someone who's helping me sharpen my saw, see some of the leadership traits that I was needing to build to continue to be
Yes,
successful and progress forward. I had
yes,
actually a dog trainer because I had a dog at the time and helping me train and board my dog when I was doing traveling. So I had a lot of folks that were helping me as I was on trains, planes, and automobiles. And a lot of our communication was over text. I would text them to
mm,
say, hey, can you come to, support me here or support me there? And it was seamless. They would show up and support me. Unfortunately, 120 days later, I would get an invoice via QuickBooks, and so that's a lot of time to pass to
yes,
be able to have insight as to, the bills I'm racking up and to know how to
mm,
compensate my great service provider team. And
mm.
so at some point I complained about it because I would have to shuffle through the invoice and then go back to my
Yeah,
text messages and try to correlate
yes,
those times.
yes,
I complained to my husband at the time, who was engineer number 4 or 5 at NetSuite, who helped build their kind of all-in-one platform for very large businesses. And he says, I think this is a solvable problem. You have wonderful interactions with them via text on mobile. Why can't you schedule them via mobile? Why can't you pay them and see invoices via mobile? And I said that would be wonderful. And so he built that first prototype. He built that first
wow,
prototype and we handed it to our home cleaner who played around with it and said, this is cool. And we asked her to use it. We said, hey, can you use it just with us so that I can just save some time and you can also have good information? And she said no. And we said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, I use a BlackBerry." And at the time, we had developed it on an iPhone. And so we bought her an iPhone and we said, "Will you use it now?" And she said, "No." And and this is $1 million home cleaner. She used to be kind of head of rooms at the Four Seasons. Like she was running a
Mhm.
really significant business, but it was like very scattered and the invoicing was late and it was a mess. And of course, being a small business, financing expert, I was like, your cash flow is all over the place here. I was seeing the
Mhm.
pain, right, that she was feeling and trying to solve it too, but also solve my own problem as a consumer. And
Mhm.
so we then put it in the App Store. We started like marketing it through various social channels. When Facebook ads were very
Mhm.
cheap, we were marketing it via Facebook and we started getting a lot of customers. Our first customer was a dog trainer. And boy, did she train us. She had at the time was using PayPal, she was
Mhm.
using her iCalendar, she was using spreadsheets, and she was managing using kind of a Square card reader.
Mhm.
And so she said, "Oh my gosh, this puts it all in one place. And you build one or two other features for me that I need to kind of put this together." And we were off to the races. Fast forward now, we have over 1,000 pet service businesses, including large
Wow.
franchises that have 30, 80 locations around the country that are running on PocketSuite. So it's been quite a journey.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. I mean, like I said, when I saw it, I was like, exactly the same thing. Okay, I've got this on this side, I've got QuickBooks, I've got the invoicing, I've got the scheduling, and so much that you're like, okay, you can hardly even put everything together. You even forget sometimes, like you're scheduling your meetings, you even forget the meetings because you're looking at one. It's
Exactly.
just
Right. There's
yeah,
so much a big pain point is
yeah,
leakage, right? I just
yeah,
can't keep it all. The reminders, the pay, the invoices, all of those things
exactly.
that you have to hold in your head along with being a great a deliverer of the services you provide.
Yeah, yeah. So Pocket Suite is amazing. And like I said, I will give it a try.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You mentioned a lot there that I want to ask on. You had two startups,
Yes.
including Pocket Suite,
Yeah.
Fundwell and OH.
OH Community Partners. Yes.
Do you still have them and are you still running?
No, so I transferred OH when I sort of decided I was going to focus in on Funwell. We transferred OH Community Partners to my business partner at the time, who was wanted to continue on doing small business consulting.
Mm,
Amazing lawyer that did diversity and inclusion law and also did economic development consulting. We had an
mhm.
amazing run with OH Community Partners. We had clients like the top five banks, JP Morgan Chase,
Yeah.
Bank of America. These banks were our
Wow.
clients, helping us think
Mhm.
about, okay, how can we support and serve small businesses at scale? So we would help them design programs to help small businesses scale and to help them raise capital. And then we had the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Department of Energy as clients, really flying around the country, working with mid-sized companies that were looking to take their businesses to the next level, providing them guidance on financial health, providing them guidance on strategy. So it was a tremendous, tremendous business. At some point in that business, though, I decided, I don't want to be in the consultant seat anymore. What I want to do is I want to be a principal here, actually
Yeah.
fundamentally changing the dynamics of the marketplace. Because as a consultant, if you're focused in on a particular industry, you keep running
Uh-huh.
into the same problem over and over. And in my case, that problem was capital acquisition. At the time, 7 out of 10 small businesses that applied for
Yeah.
capital were being rejected. And that just seemed,
Mm.
it didn't make sense. These were actually
Yeah.
financially healthy, financially viable businesses that actually had a good use case for that capital. So I decided I wanted to pull that thread as a principal and launch, a tech business that would actually solve the problem. And so what we did was we launched Funwell, which basically aggregated over 300 different funding types and of course the financing providers or lenders behind those funding types. And we built a platform that made it really, really easy for businesses to apply for capital and to get approved. So we were able to flip that paradigm on its head. 7 out of 10 businesses being rejected for capital. We actually had 8 out of 10 businesses being approved for capital. We helped them
Oh,
raise over
yeah.
$150 million of capital on our platform. And we flipped the paradigm. We, as a broker, you can actually
Mm,
information from lenders on exactly what their credit criteria is for someone to get approved. And so we were
yeah.
able to and they won't give that information directly to somebody applying, right? And so people are knocking on the wrong doors. So what we did is we put all of this information into an algorithm. We asked these businesses a few questions, and we then routed them to the 5 to 10 lenders that were perfect for them based on their financial health and their credit criteria. And so their approval rates went through the roof. But the typical business just knocks on their local bank's door and gets rejected because they don't know
Yeah.
anywhere else to go. And so
Yes.
it was a finding cost problem. We were
Mm.
routing them to the right place. There was no wrong door. Just come here. We've got the marketplace. We'll route you versus you knocking on several doors and getting rejected because you just don't have transparency on what they're looking for.
Yeah. 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 So, a lot of entrepreneurs are running different things because it's just something we do, I guess. You've got this going, that going, that going. When do you think you can make the leap? Or when do you think you can make that decision to go with the one thing or to, like you did, leave something to your partner or sell a business
Yeah.
or, yeah, what criteria, yeah, what is that? What can help you make the right decision?
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think you do have to have a broader vision for your own life, right? Because there's no wrong
Mm,
answer. Could I have continued to do OH Community Partners for another 2 to 3 decades? Absolutely.
yeah.
But I asked
Yeah.
myself, the nature of that work for me was basically working directly with small businesses and
Mm,
helping them solve their kind of bespoke issue or problem, which was perfectly fine. And I learned a ton and created a lot of value. But when I thought about the vision for my life, I thought, gosh, I want to solve a marketplace problem for businesses that I will never, ever meet. And so I had to start looking and saying, let me go upstream to think about what's the root cause of this capital problem that I keep solving individual businesses,
mm,
and can I address the root cause problem so that it flows down just in a better way, or folks are able to attack it and reach it much more efficiently than they're doing now. And so once you
mhm,
make that decision that actually this is what I want, then you can, like, with clear eyes, determine whether the platform you're currently running, the business you're currently running, will ever get you there. And so it was very clear that always community partners will not get me there. At the end of life, I will say I have worked with a couple hundred businesses to do some really great stuff. But I really
mhm,
wanted to be able to say I fundamentally changed the way business is being done
yeah.
by businesses everywhere by doing and supporting this outcome. And so that ultimately led me to initially an experiment in the to doing FundWell. We just slapped up a landing page and we tested it and it worked. And so we were able to raise capital around that. And I said, I'm going to go all in to pursue this as far as I can because I actually think this is a market insight that will fundamentally transform the marketplace. So that's ultimately what we did and where we went. And to be honest, I would say the legacy of that work, because there are a number of other players that were kind of developing that same market insight at that same time. Biz2 Credit, helped to create a number of things. On Deck Capital, Cabbage Capital. There are a number of totally new financing providers that were basically creating marketplaces to help businesses find capital more efficiently. Same lenders that had always existed, but giving folks a better mousetrap to find it. Now, a lot of those providers no longer exist because fundamentally what happened was that initial group, including Fundwell, that initial group of pioneers that saw that market insight, that created those initial companies, then inspired legacy players like who? Intuit, Now QuickBooks has a model for basically being able to provide you capital if you're using QuickBooks in accounting. Stripe, Square, so all these existing platforms that already had access to small businesses but weren't delivering small business capital for growth to them decided, let's just build this into our models. We have a much more sticky mechanism to collect that capital and the interest than some of these providers that are just providing capital. And that became fundamentally the winning model, which is existing accounting financial service providers just adding an additional offering, which they're able to uniquely underwrite, right? Because they have all the data for these businesses, be able to in seconds deliver that capital to them, and then with much higher fidelity get a return on that capital and collect that interest with no delinquency and defaults. So I would say that we were pioneers in actually helping to kind of tip the market to be able to develop this innovation just as part of a mainstream core offering. That now financial service providers understand it makes sense for them in terms of their own diversity of revenue and for their users to be able to have and provide.
So what I'm hearing there is purpose, legacy.
Yes.
Those are the things that are really critical in making those decisions. So the impact that you want to make. And when you were talking, in my mind, I got this. That's why she's called the small business economist. And then I was like, I'm going to ask her, how did that term come about?
There's not a sexy story there. Here's the thing. When you're creating a business, oftentimes, PR and brand building is a critical part of getting your name out there. There's an old saying, no one wants, in Chicago, where I spent 10 years building OH Community Partners, don't send me somebody that nobody knows, right? Like you've gotta, in order to like have doors open, people have to have heard your name before. People have to feel like this is a market insight you're known for. So one of the things we did is we partnered with Entrepreneur.com, which of course is, a big platform that serves small businesses and gives them inspirational content and actionable content. And I became a columnist for Entrepreneur.com. And my focus was really on talking about the small business economy and talking about not just, what is it, how big is it, but what are the far-reaching impacts? Who are the heroes in the small business economy and why? What are the unit economics that helps you win if you manage them correctly? And what are all the resources that are untapped that folks need to be able to start leveraging in order to grow faster, grow more thoughtfully. So that I think is where that name started to emerge, that small business economist.
And on that note, let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
This episode is brought to you by HUMHR, the boutique career and leadership consultancy helping professionals get clear, get confident, and get hired. From CV writing and Clifton Strength coaching to interview prep and leadership development, HUMHR is here to help you take the next step in your career. Visit humhr.org to learn more. www.humhr.org. Welcome back. If you're joining us now, I am talking to Chinwe, and we are talking entrepreneurship as a career choice, and we were talking about small businesses. And right now, I want to talk to Chinwe about Africa being the global, the rising continent at the moment. Chinwe, Africa is the rising continent. That's what they're saying. That's what we are reading. That's what media is telling us. But we are also seeing it on the ground. There's this excitement in Africa. There's a huge entrepreneurship vibe and young entrepreneurs. Young people are making that choice that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That is my career choice. They're not even going to work. They just to learn the tools. They're just starting straight out with these ideas right out the gate. What's your thought on that? And also, how do you think they can learn from the continents that have gone before them? What lessons can they learn?
Yeah, no, this topic is near and dear to me. I'm originally from Nigeria. My husband's originally from Cameroon. We spend a lot of time in Douala, and we have high hopes to be able to, when PocketSuite is all said and done, to be able to go back home and do something entrepreneurial there. So
Yeah.
what I would say is, and I spent the early part of my education learning and studying what they call the five tigers. So these were East Asian countries,
Mhm.
Japan,
Mhm.
South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, that invested heavily because they didn't have the natural resources Africa has,
Mm.
invested heavily
Mm.
in
Mm.
education and in infrastructure that ultimately enabled them to compete on the world and to be honest, created some protectionist economies initially to kind of incubate their
Yeah.
businesses, but eventually opened up their markets, focused on things like heavy industry, electronics, right? And sort of saying, this is where we can win. We're going to cultivate our workforce in this space, and we are going to compete on the world stage. And in many cases did win for a very long period of time. When I look at those cases and examples, the thing, and I look at kind of where many African economies are in their own kind of development of kind of
Mm.
the sort of African entrepreneurship, what I would say that is missing that I think we need to really, really focus in on, because there's no shortage of entrepreneurial inspiration, no shortage of
Yeah.
talent, no shortage of
Mm.
motivation and discipline to be able to execute against those talents and deliver wonderful
Mm.
services and products. Where we are seeing shortages are slowness in the business permitting process. So really looking at those local permits and sort of thinking about how do you speed those up, still protecting local residents and citizens, but not artificially slowing down because of inefficiency and delays the process of allowing folks to be able to start and launch businesses. That's one. Two,
Mm.
predictable energy and infrastructure, right? There's no reason, given the natural resources that are, sort of native to
Mm.
topographies native to our land, that we should be suffering from, blackouts and
Yeah.
shortages. Whether it's Wi-Fi, access to Wi-Fi, consistent
Mm.
access to Wi-Fi that's affordable, whether it's literally light and electricity, whether it's, heat and being able to kind of cool and heat things at the right temperatures to be able to preserve products that are consumable and can be subject to things like mold and other things, right? If you don't control the temperature and the climate. These are all things that fundamentally matter. Last time we were in Douala in March of this year, we went to two different like marketplaces. They're kind of indoor marketplaces. One was Marché des Fleurs, and
Mm.
it was just a beautiful marketplace with artisans who were selling crafts that honestly, if you bought them here, they would cost you in the hundreds. But there we were negotiating $3, $5, and my mind was blown. But I've got to be honest, the facility that we were walking through, it wasn't clean. It wasn't well swept. Wasn't just
Mm.
basic, and the structure had a lot of deferred maintenance. So if you think about tourism and you think about what draws people in, yes, they want the native, crafts, and they want great products and great service, which was all there. But they also want an environment that they can walk through comfortably and to
Yeah.
be able to sit and eat a little bit, stay a while. But this was not conducive to being able to sit, stay a while, and shop some more, right? So you wanted to kind of get in, negotiate, and
Yes.
get out,
Yeah.
right? And a part of building an entrepreneurial economy is not just the direct merchants that benefit, but it's also the indirect economic activity, which is things like the food suppliers, it's things like the amenities, the playgrounds for the kids, and so forth, that allow that money to circulate in the economy over and over again. So all of that, I think, links back to both the infrastructure to support that business community and just the local policies and regulations to be able to accelerate, to be able to support entrepreneurs rather than restrict and delay entrepreneurs. I think if we just tweaked those
Yeah.
two kind of fundamentals, you're going to
Mm.
see just kind of, a million flowers bloom.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Chinwe. And I know we are, running short of time. So I am grateful for your time. I'm going to let you go, but with one last question. So you've worn many hats and, went to Harvard. You've You've done a lot. How do you stay grounded?
Yeah, I would say my family.
Mm,
I come from a big family. My father is one of 10, my mother is one of 11, and so you can imagine the cousins, and then, the nephews and the nieces, and so we have a big clan, and, we invest in coming together quite a bit. And we do it
mm,
for ourselves because it reminds us, in the best version of nostalgia, it reminds us of our youth and the fun we had, the connection, and it also gives us an opportunity to replicate those experiences for our kids. And when I look out at the world and kind of where we're headed, I just keep trying to remind my kids that, your family is so, so important and will always help keep you grounded, will help remind you of what's important. And that continues to be true for me today. And so I thank God every morning when I wake up, just for both the blessings and the lessons
mm.
that come with this journey and, for keeping the family healthy and strong, and sharp and for giving us, this opportunity to serve because ultimately
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is about service. It really is, and, we're all blessed to be able to be of service.
I think that is a great note to end. And what I find really amazing is how no matter what stage of life anyone is, no matter how well they've done, what really keeps them together is the people
Exactly.
around them, is
Right.
their support system, their tribe.
Right.
Yeah. Short fire round questions before you go, really quickly, and then I'll let you go.
Very good.
Okay, first word that comes to mind. Let's have some fun before I let you go, right? We've talked serious
Very
stuff.
good.
Let's have some
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Okay, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear entrepreneurship?
Inspired.
Okay, morning routine that you must have to start your day strong.
Very good. Before I take the kids to school, I praise God. I do
Yeah.
a morning workout routine. I make
Uh-huh.
some hot water with lemon for my husband and I. And I sometimes do what we call morning pages, just a stream of consciousness, writing out the
Mhm.
things that are, floating around in my
Yes,
head that I want to
yes.
live in the world.
Book that has deeply influenced your entrepreneurial journey.
That I have to choose 2 books. This is tough. So, I would say the first one is called The McKinsey Way. It's a
Uh-huh.
book written about, McKinsey& and Company, which is a consulting firm that I worked in
Yes,
very
you
early
work.
on, and it's a very I would say it's a very clear, well-structured way of showing how you can train your mind to learn, about any industry, the fundamentals of that industry, the business models, the unit economics, which I think set me up really well to then be able to serve so many different industries with PocketSuite and be able to really focus on how to help them
Mm,
grow. The other book
mm,
is called Great Place to Work for All. Better
mm.
for Business, Better for People, Better for the World. It's written by Michael Bush, who's the former the CEO of Great Place to Work, my former boss when I was at Great Place to Work, and is just
Yes.
a phenomenal what they call level 5 leader.
Oh, wow. Okay. So many things there. I'm gonna try and catch you to come back. I just thought of something.
Okay.
How can we bridge the gap with Africa in terms of mentorship?
I
I
love
mean,
it. Yep.
yes, so many of us have had the opportunity to build businesses like PocketSuite, right? And how fantastic would that be if we could have a mentorship where you could be mentoring entrepreneurs back home, entrepreneurs in Cameroon, in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, how to start the businesses, yeah, how to find funding, which is solving that problem. The same problem you solved here, solve it back at home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm part of a group called Y Combinator. They are one of the largest startup accelerators in the world. They have something called
Oh,
Startup School, where they source globally, and the biggest contingent of entrepreneurs from outside of the U.S. are coming from Africa, and
wow.
they are part of Y Combinator. We just had a reunion 2 months ago, and
Wow.
I got to be honest, everywhere I looked, oh, Ghana, okay, Nigeria, okay, Senegal, okay, Ivory Coast, they're all coming from West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and frankly, they're based there. So it's not that you're coming to the U.S. and
Yes.
brain drain. You're based there, but
Yes.
you're leveraging the mentorship,
Yes.
capital raising, the technical assistance and resources, and you're taking it right back. And so I'm very excited about Y Combinator as a critical ecosystem partner to being able to help with startups. So we
Oh,
can talk more about them, but they have a
okay.
huge investment in African entrepreneurship.
That's fascinating. So, Chinwe, my invitation to you, would you be willing to come back at some point?
No question. I love this conversation. I don't know if it's coming through, but lots of energy whenever I'm talking about entrepreneurship.
Okay, we will set that up. Listeners, Chinwe is coming back.
Very
And
good.
thank you. I am grateful. There was one last thing I wanted. This is the last thing, and you are going to leave us with this. And it is, oh, yes, if PocketSuite had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
You know what?
Let's,
It may not be as obvious, but I this is a song that just really it brightens my day.
uh-huh.
It's called Lovely Day. Are you familiar with Lovely
Ah,
Day? Yeah, Lovely
yes.
Day. Lovely Day.
Yes,
And
lovely day.
you can tell that even though it's kind of bright and upbeat, there is a responsibility behind it. You recognize that it's a
Mhm.
choice, right? Entrepreneurship is a choice, right? It's
Yes.
a choice to kind of choose joy and to choose positivity and optimism in spite of real challenges and responsibilities. And that's fundamentally entrepreneurship. There are highs, there are lows, but fundamentally it's the process that you're embracing. And so every day is a lovely day because you get to tackle big challenges and to be victorious sometimes and to learn sometimes.
And and to learn. Learning and relearning. Entrepreneurship is a choice. Choose joy.
Choose joy. Choose joy.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Chinwe, for your time. And I sincerely hope that the next time I drag you back on Humor Career Insights, you will come on board. Such a pleasure having this conversation with you and listeners and watchers now. Until next time, stay inspired.